foster kids and so forth, to encourage them to embrace a life of courage and embrace the life of grace, that God has given us the grace to heal, to get over the past, to not carry around self-condemnation and shame, and yet to fully embrace all that He has for us. And like we talked about earlier in the interview, and we said, until we relinquish that will over to Him, we may never realize the true freedom and opportunities He has planned for us.
True. So tell me how this fits into your Atlanta live show.
That was one of those opportunities. And how that all fits in is, as I began to go through this process and I began to heal, I simply said to the Lord, I know so many men, women, and kids and teens and young, people in their 20s are struggling with some of the same issues that I had struggled with all my life. And I said, God, just give me an opportunity to share the reality and to be transparent and vulnerable, so that I can encourage others to do the same thing and to find safe people that they can speak to. So I was invited to be on 2 talk show programs. One was The Christian View, and I was on there for about 18 months until the book launched, and my plate was just overflowing. But in the meantime, WATC out of Atlanta had offered me a position to be one of their hosts on Atlanta Live. And what we do there, and I just hosted the program last night, and what we do there is we bring in guests with stories, inspirational stories. If someone's got a book or they've got something that they can encourage another person. So our viewers on the other end of the television set are encouraged by those stories that we bring on. So it's music and interviews, and we just try to inspire people. I've recently interviewed Shonda Pierce, the Kendrick brothers, Tammy Trent, a lot of different people, because I think in this day and time when we're in this world of political correctness and struggling, with how far do we go in sharing our faith, we've got to get out and encourage one another as Christians to be real and to speak of our faith and speak of our stories and encourage one another to move forward and to grow closer to the Lord, and then turn and pay it forward, help others do the same thing.
Sure. And going back again to the moment of where God sort of brought you to your knees, talk a little bit about how your family embraced that process. Is it something they're like, oh yeah, this is something that has been needed, or were they sort of in denial?
Well, our boys, we kept everything from our boys as much as possible. In 7 Steps to Courage, in the book, I talk about how Mike and I actually met in high school. I was 14, he was 17, and so it was before we were both saved. And even after being saved, because we held onto our brokenness, we just carried it along with us and continue to break one another. But because of our childhoods, we learned to hide what was going on. We were fearful of being judged or not being accepted, and so we just hid everything. So our kids, our 2 boys, I'm sure they're very smart, and they knew things weren't right, or weren't great, but they didn't know the extent of the brokenness. And so they were grown at the time. My oldest son was 26, my youngest son was 24 at the time. So they were, out on their own, out of college and so forth. And so what was going on at home was a little more shielded from them. Mike, on the other hand, as God brought me to my knees that night and He told me to reveal the truth, the couple that He told me to reveal it to was our pastor and his wife, and they had been great friends of my husband and I for about 15 years. We traveled with them. And so to go and tell someone that after 15 years, and we've been pretending that we have this perfect family, this perfect little marriage and so forth, and to unveil to them that no, in reality, we're on life support, we're contemplating divorce, and things have been a train wreck in a lot of ways. there's always good and bad. There's always ups and downs, but there was so much brokenness we were toting along. And so they were shocked, honestly. And so then after I came back, I had to tell my husband, here's what I did. I went and I just really told, them what was going on. So bottom line, you asked the question, did everyone embrace that? My husband wasn't thrilled because it was a painful thing for me. So it wasn't something that at the very beginning was easy for us. But he was very courageous in that he chose to come alongside me and fight for our marriage. And he said, okay, I'll go with you. We'll get help. We'll find a really good, Christian pastor, counselor, who's also a psychologist, and we'll commit to working with him. And so we both made that commitment that no matter how hard it got, that we would commit to that. And we did. We spent the next close to 2 years in counseling, and it was some pretty heavy counseling for us to get through some of the stuff from childhood, some of the stuff that we'd even gone through together, how we'd hurt each other and broke, just damaged that relationship.
Yeah.
So he came alongside, and he embraced it. Our two boys, of course, they loved us unconditionally. They certainly wanted to see the family healed and stay together. So it was tough on the family, but everybody, really embraced the process and said, we're going to fight for this. And I'll be honest with you, Jason, there were times when I didn't think we were going to make it, and we didn't think we were going to make it. But, God's grace came through, His mercy came through, and we committed to making the hard choice to stay and to work through those difficult issues that we had to deal with. And that's really what I share in the book. I take someone through the steps that it took to heal us. And so there's lots of charts, there's lots of counseling tips in here, there's lots of exercises in the book, 7 Steps to Courage, that will challenge someone, whether they're in a difficult relationship or whether they're just having another difficult part in life, to gain the courage to heal those broken pieces. And what ultimately, when I healed myself and my husband began to heal himself, God healed our marriage in the process. And this year we'll celebrate 30 years in October.
Amen. Well, is there anything I have not asked you that is relevant for your story?
I can't think of anything other than, just how our listeners can get a copy of 7 Steps to Courage, because they can find out more about me at ingraceministries.org. That's INGRACE ministries.org. Or listeners can go to 7stepstocourage.com. And there's information about me. There's information about the book. You can click over to the ministry from there and find out everything that we're doing, the missions that we go on, the speaking engagements and so forth that I'm involved in. And you can also buy a copy of the book there. And, of course, it's on Amazon. You can, find it there. And I recorded the audio book a couple of months back, and they've been in the process of editing that. That should be available in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And that was a real surreal experience, but it was wonderful. I'm very blessed to be in a position where I can share this story, and I'm very excited that the feedback I'm getting is a lot of people, it's really challenging them to make those necessary changes in life. That's setting a lot of people free.
Excellent. Well, Ann, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let you know when this runs.
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and I hope you have a blessed rest of the afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
That's all the time for today. Be looking for future episodes soon. I'll have interviews with CCM artists Jordan Feliz and Plum, among other leaders in Christian communication. Thanks for listening.